There's a stretch of railway tracks just outside the small town of St. Louis, Saskatchewan. If you drove past it during the day, you wouldn't slow down. Flat prairie, wide sky, gravel roads that seem to go on forever. But at night, people park there, turn off their headlights, and wait. Because sometimes a light appears on the tracks, and it isn't attached to anything. Hi, I'm Asha, and yes, she's got spirits. And if you're here, chances are you've got spirits too. Each week we dive into true hauntings, real Canadian history, and the stories that refuse to stay buried. So dim the lights, and let's get into it. Cheers! Welcome back to She's Got Spirits. Tonight, we're covering the St. Louis ghost train. Let's get into it. The legend goes back decades. One version says that years ago, a school bus carrying children stalled on the tracks. A train came. There wasn't enough time. Some say several children died that night. Others say the story has changed over time, that it may have been a different accident, a different number of victims, but the core detail stays the same. Children, a train, darkness, and something unfinished. Now here's where it becomes unsettling. People who park near the old crossing late at night report seeing a single light approaching down the tracks. Not wide like a train headlamp, not flickering like a flashlight, just a steady glow. It appears in the distance, moves slowly, and then vanishes before reaching them. There's no active train line there now. And when the light disappears, there's no sound of an engine fading away. No horn, just silence. Teenagers have tested it for years. Pull up to the tracks, put their car in neutral, turn everything off. They say sometimes their vehicle will begin to roll, even though the land appears level. Some claim handprints appear on the back of their car, small ones, as if children are pushing them off the tracks. When they check later, they find dusty prints on the trunk. This detail gets repeated often. It's the kind of detail that sticks. Skeptics have offered explanations. Optical illusions, headlights from distant vehicles bending strangely across flat land. Gravity hills, where slight downward slopes look level. Dust smears mistaken for prints. And those are reasonable theories. Prairie landscapes can distort perception, but here's what keeps people coming back. The consistency. Generations apart, same story, same light, and same location. One account from the early 2000s described a couple who parked at the crossing around midnight. They waited nearly 40 minutes before seeing anything. Then, in the distance, a faint glow appeared. They assumed it was a car, but the light didn't widen, didn't shift lanes, didn't change shape. It stayed centered on the tracks. As it moved closer, they realized they couldn't hear anything. No engine, no wind disturbance, nothing. When it reached roughly halfway down the stretch, it simply blinked out. Not dimmed, not faded, gone. They left immediately. Another witness described hearing something else. Not a horn, not wheels, but what sounded like children laughing. Very faint and very brief, carried on the wind. That detail isn't as widely reported, but it's appeared enough times in local retellings to feel worth mentioning. What makes prairie hauntings unsettling is the exposure. There's nowhere to hide. No walls, no corners, just sky and land. If something appears in the environment, it feels deliberate, visible, unavoidable. Some local historians argue that the exact school bus tragedy may not match the legend perfectly. Records don't clearly confirm a mass child fatality at the crossing, but railway accidents involving children have occurred in Saskatchewan over the past century. and folklore has a way of condensing multiple tragedies into one narrative. Whether the story evolved over time or began with a single event, the phenomenon remains. People still see the light, still report the same slow approach, still feel uneasy once it disappears. There's always something deeply psychological about train imagery. Trains represent momentum. You can't stop them quickly. You can't outpace them once they're close. If something happened on those tracks decades ago, it would have been sudden, final, and loud. Maybe what people see isn't a ghost train. Maybe it's residual energy, a replay, a moment stuck in repetition, or maybe it's something entirely natural that our brains can't help but interpret through story. But here's what I find interesting. If you ask locals directly whether they believe it's haunted, many won't laugh. They'll just say, "Go see for yourself." That kind of quiet response is sometimes more telling than dramatic claims. The tracks are still there. You can visit, park, wait, watch the horizon, and if a light appears, you'll have to decide what you think it is. Just remember, if it starts getting closer without making a sound, you might not want to wait until it reaches you. Would you try it? Or are train tracks at night unsettling enough on their own? This is She's Got Spirits. I'll see you next time. Cheers.